Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Daniel Kraak, who's a partner and personal CFO at Atmos Planning. Daniel, welcome to the program.
Mike, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I was talking with you right before we started recording about how time flies and the summer's gone. At the time of this recording, we just finished Labor Day 2021. And I think that it's interesting that, when we get into our conversation, I think that mentality will tie into what you do with helping families make planning decisions for the future, because you might think you have time, but time just goes. So I thought that would be a nice launching point as soon as you kind of update us on your background and your entrepreneurial journey, and then what led you to Atmos Planning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just, a little bit of a background. I was in the Army, did active duty for 4 years and got out. Didn't know what I wanted to do, so spent a couple years in business school, and then I think like every veteran in some capacity, you either feel pressured to or end up going to defense contracting. So I did that for a couple years out in DC, and had my now wife came out there with me. She was originally from North Dakota, so you can imagine, she didn't really take too kindly to the DC pace and lifestyle. So we quickly decided to settle down in Colorado Springs, and for me that meant something more entrepreneurial. And I gravitated to be a financial planner. Did that, enjoyed it. Things were going well. I did a lot of work with other veterans, which was important to me, and things were going well, but got to the point where it just felt like all the advice I was giving was the same, 401ks, IRAs, et cetera. The conversations where I was having, getting the most energy from, and what I felt like providing the most value was to those visionary entrepreneurs, they want to make a lot of money, but they want to make a big impact too. Yeah. And if you spend some time in the financial services industry, you know that you're pretty limited on the advice you can give in things like, particulars of a business or real estate investments. And for these kinds of people, at least, that's, 80, 90, sometimes 100% of their financial picture. So kind of did some soul searching and, kind of reflecting on what I wanted to do and who I wanted to do it for. And just kind of wanted to lean more and more into the business side. And just had conversations with a lot of these people and kind of kept putting the pieces together of what they were missing. And what they really wanted was someone that could dive into their business, right? The financials of their business, how to hire and scale and, pay themselves and all that kind of stuff, but also with an eye towards how that translates to their personal goals, their net worth, kids in college, new houses, all that kind of stuff. And then how does all that tie together towards the impact that they want to make, right? Some people want to, change their industry. Some people want to, start a family business, whatever it might be. There's always kind of that impact-minded aspect as well. And so how could we do that and package it in a way that de-risks as much as possible for, the client? And again, I think people kept telling us, not in plain English, but we kept piecing together, hey, we want all of it, and we want it in something, month-to-month kind of subscription basis. So we've leaned into that. The company started late 2020, kind of fall 2020 timeframe, and we've surpassed every goal we've set here. It feels like every 3 months we're up in the ante. So it's been exciting so far for sure.
Yeah, I really like the way that you lay that out, because I think that many times people feel like, wealth planning, retirement planning, financial planning is all about the numbers. And in reality, it is. But also in reality, there's so many things that are connected to that. And I just love you guys' approach to like a 360-degree holistic approach. So yes, you get into tax and business and things like that. But I want to talk a little bit about the aspect too that you guys touch on, which is, like life, your purpose. And then that gets into, your aspect of, what is the I don't know, like legacy driven visionary entrepreneur, and all that ties in because probably if you were to ask an anonymous question to many of your clients, they would go, yeah, money's cool and all, but let me tell you what I'm really excited about, that kind of thing. So how did you guys land on that? Because I feel like most of the time you're like, financial planning, let's talk numbers and we can help you with these things and we do things differently but you really take that to the next level from what I can see on your website.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's been there was a couple situations of, just based on the numbers, you're crushing it, right? You're, best quarter ever, or you're millions in net worth and all that. And on the surface, it's, things are great, but there's always kind of that itch of what next or what else, or, what could I be doing differently? And, some people are having great financial results, but their personal life is, not what they want it to be. They're missing, kids' soccer games, or, there's tension with their spouse, or all that different kind of stuff that, it really, and, for that matter, maybe there's, maybe they want to start a nonprofit and they're just so bogged down in their business that they can't, free up the time. And so part of our, how we kind of kick people off and onboard our clients is, we have some financial metrics we really like to keep tabs on, the value of your business, your personal net worth. But there's, one thing we always kind of punt to your corner, and that's, do you feel like your life's getting better? And only you can tell us that. And, we want to have those conversations, at least a few times a year. But, at the end of the day, the net worth and the value of the business can be great. But if you don't feel like your life's getting better, then, what are we here for and what are we doing? And ultimately, we're probably not going to last.
And that's a really interesting perspective, because I feel like you could prep for a meeting with a client and go, wow, look at this last year. And this is going to be such a wonderful meeting because the numbers show this, and this, and whatever growth. And you're excited. And they come in and you're like, check this out. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you're like, what? So the question that you ask is, what do you feel like? Is your life moving the right? Because sometimes, and I don't know whether it's J. Paul Getty or somebody is known to say, oh, you got so much money, how much more will make you happy? He's like, just a little bit more. And you're like, you've got more money than you know what to do with, and you need just a little bit more. So I think that it's so important to get with that client and say, where do you feel you are? Because if I can look at these numbers and say, hallelujah, look at how wonderful this is, and you might not be jazzed, well, we need to dive into that to make sure that you are getting what you need. So talk a little bit about how you're making sure that each one of those, touch points in their life, whether it's money or personal or all of that, are being addressed.
Yeah, I'll give you a kind of one area we work a lot with is exit planning for business owners. And if you look at the stats on how people exit their business and after they exit, what's their satisfaction? Do they have any regrets? That kind of stuff. And disproportionately they do. It's full of regret, full of lack of meaning, full of you would think you sell your business and your life's work, and now you go retire and do whatever you want, and that's just not the case. And it really boils down to, throughout the process, before you've sold, before you've done all that, kind of a simple conversation of, what are you going to do? You can move to Colorado and all that kind of stuff, be in the mountains, but what's your day-to-day like going to be?
Yeah.
And that's one example of kind of where I think a lot of business consultants, even financial advisors, really lean in on and rightfully so, but lean in on let's drive the value, let's, maximize our return, all that kind of stuff. And I think, equally important to that is, what are you going to do? Is it worth selling, or are there other options? Is this something we could, maybe build something more autonomous where you can have some more free time, but also keep that sense of meaning? Or, are there other goals that you have, other things you want to do that you just don't know how to do? And, let's go try to do them. So that's kind of one area that it's been surprising for me. It's one thing to read it on paper, and it's another to see it in your face of people that sell and kind of live the dream on the surface. But beneath it all, there's a sense of, some combination of regret, frustration, whatever that might be.
That's pretty huge, because I feel like a lot of people, like in the moment, like, they're a busy quarter at work and it's like, I just want to retire and be done with this and sit on the beaches of the world or play golf all day. And, that'd be so awesome. But 3 weeks in, or 2 months in or whatever short time frame, it's like, okay, now I'm bored. So it sounds really good to say that, like, oh, what are your retirement dreams? Oh, I just want to whatever, fill in the blank. But in reality, let's really pause on that and let's talk through that and what would that look like, because that might be great for a short period of time, but then what? And I think that ties into your phrase that I love, legacy-driven entrepreneur. So let's talk a little bit about what really is a legacy-driven entrepreneur. And I would venture to say that a true legacy-driven entrepreneur never truly retires. They kind of, step back a little bit, and then they step back a little bit more, and then they step back a little bit more, but because they really don't want to ever let that legacy go. Now they have all the free time in the world they want, and you're helping them with the decisions, but talk a little bit about, the far reaches of legacy-driven entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to, in one word, growth. These kinds of people are, kind of backtrack a little bit. In the early stages of our company, we came from the traditional financial services model, and, we kind of talked through the business model a little bit. And, there's some concerns raised of, you're going to do all this work, and then in 6 months, they're not going to need you anymore. Why would they keep paying a monthly fee? And, we countered with that, and it's so far been proven true that these people, there's always another idea. There's always something else that they want to do. And so I think to be legacy driven is, and again, it could be starting another business. It could be starting a nonprofit. It could be, it could be anything. And it could be in parallel with what they're doing already. You'd be surprised at how many people out there have 2, 3, 4, 5 different businesses that they just love kind of a new challenge and love, that next idea. And I think that's where really the traditional business consulting and financial advisory world misses the mark of, there's always going to be something new. And I think you got to play into that a little bit with how you work with people and the conversations you have, because if you don't ask the right questions, you don't ask the right way, then you're not going to get to that deep-seated desire of what's next.
Yeah. And I think that if you were to ask many entrepreneurs, what is next, or what do you envision, they would give this surface level answer. And then if you do I forget what the technique is called, but basically you keep asking 5 levels deep, and you're like, oh, that's a really good point. What's important about that? And then they go a little bit deeper, and then you finally get to the end, and they're like, wow, I kind of never really thought that deep. And I would have thought that my initial answer would have been my answer, but yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that helps them clarify. And then once that's clarified, doesn't that help with many of the decisions they make personally or professionally in their day to day? Because then they're kind of overlaying that over top of where they're headed. It's kind of like becomes like their true north, right?
Yeah, and I'll give you one example. We've got a client that we're driving towards. They really want to sell their business, and we have pretty ambitious goals. We want to sell for 8 figures, and our preliminary conversations were, so what after? What next? And really kind of came down. We're just going to spend time with family, and be present for our kids' lives and younger kids, and it's kind of that surface level things. And fast forward 20 minutes, and kind of pushing on the door a little bit, and it finally, comes out, the owner is a woman. And what's really important to her is, I'd like to turn around and then invest in other women-led businesses and maybe be a mentor in some capacity. And not only is that, healthy to know, but it really shapes the strategy, right? Of, we get all this money. How do we structure it from a cash flow perspective and all of that? And it's good to know that now, as opposed to, 2 years from now when, she's flailing around a little bit.
Right, because if all she wanted was to spend time with the family, well, that's just a couple big, long vacations, or that's just, take a week off every quarter, and normally you only take 2 weeks a year. So check that box easily. But in reality, you want to thrive and give back. And, that lady may find herself, being forced to carve out like, for instance, she could get so jazzed about giving back and investing in women-owned businesses that now she's back up to 40, 50 hours a week. And it's like, okay, hold up. Let me make sure I've got my time for family. So I'm going to work Tuesdays through Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's my work day. I'm going to get it, really excited about, working with some of these businesses and ladies that I'm helping to invest in. But everything else, there's my family. And she might come back to you in, months or years and go, now I am fulfilled. We structured this the right way. So I think that is just such a huge aha that people just don't think about.
Yeah. And on the flip side, maybe you don't want to sell and you want to, stay involved in your business. Well, there's, a lot of the same principles are going to make it, go from a sellable business to an autonomous business. It's largely the same process of empowering and delegating and building the systems that, you can go on a vacation for a week or two and, the whole house doesn't burn down. And I think even sometimes getting to that point where, you're not working 80 hours a week, you're working, closer to 40 and, things can function a little bit better without you. And, sometimes that spikes the happiness and satisfaction with everything as well.
And there's so many variables to that. You don't have to just sell and you don't have to just stay in the business. You could do many things. Like you said, you could say, you know what, let me sell a portion of the business. Let me bring in a CEO. And so I can step back out. And so all of those things need to factor in. But the reality is, what are you really working toward? And it's more than just spending time with the kids and the family. It's doing that plus giving back plus, probably another element. We don't need to dive in and we have no clue who this is. So it's great just to talk conceptually, but maybe another element was, I really love seeing what I built. I established this company from its start. It's my baby. It's my, I've kind of viewed this as, so I really would, I'm not really ready to sell and step out. So, that's a great idea to be able to. So I think the bottom line is, and this leads me to my last question about being a personal CFO. Being that personal CFO would give you that responsibility to help them come to these decisions so that it's like, okay, that feels right. So talk a little bit about what a personal CFO is and why someone needs it. Because, you might think of a big company that needs a chief financial officer, but, a personal CFO, that's a personal aspect.
Yeah, I think at its best, we want to be the trusted advisor for everything that money touches in your life. And I think, a lot of people's first reaction is we want to replace a business consultant or financial advisor or insurance guy or gal. We don't. We actually, like those professionals in place. We like the CPAs and the advisors and business coaches and bookkeepers. Because we like to work with them. So I think what we really want to be is that trusted advisor for everything that money touches in your life. You pay us a flat monthly fee, that's not, contingent on any decisions that you may or may not make. So, we like to say we sit on the same side of the table with you. And, we coordinate with those professionals in your life, the financial advisors, the bookkeepers, the CPAs. And, we come from some of those worlds as a team and, we can make sure the right questions are being asked internally, of course. And then, a lot of it is because we don't replace those professionals, we can actually, sit on a little bit more higher of a field, higher of a plane and ask the questions like, hey, what do you want out of life? What after you sell this business? Would it make more sense to just build something where you can, have it function a little more autonomously, all those different things. New business ideas, nonprofit ideas, whatever it might be, kids' college, all these things that a dollar in your business is a dollar that's not going to a new house, kids' college fund, whatever. And a dollar in those things is a dollar that's not going towards hiring and scaling and all the other things you need in your business. And so how do you understand the interplay between the two? How do you make sure you're making the right decisions, with ultimately what you want out of life, with all that in mind?
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like, when I was playing chess with my son or one of my daughters about a couple weeks ago, and it reminds me what you just said. There's like you make a chess move and you keep your finger on it and you keep looking around. It's like, okay, my move isn't ended yet, but I'm almost ready. Does everything look right? Okay, good. And then you move on. Well, when you have someone from that external perspective helping you bring things to your attention, that just really helps you see how things fit together, and then you don't have to, hope that you did it right. So I just really like that concept of a personal CFO. Well, Daniel, it's really cool just to get to know the way that you guys do business. If someone is interested in learning more, what's the best way they can reach out and connect with you and find out more about Atmos Planning?
Yeah, direct them to two places. First, our website, atmosplanning.com. That's got a lot of good information on there. And then two, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So I should be one of the few Kraaks out there. So just searching my name or Dan Kraak should lead you there, and happy to connect with any of your listeners and talk more for sure.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. It was really great getting to know you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.